On a spring afternoon in 1828, the medieval streets of Nuremberg, Germany, witnessed an impossible sight. A teenage boy, disoriented and dressed in tattered clothes, stumbled into the city center as if he had emerged from another world. He could barely walk, barely speak, and his eyes, unaccustomed to the light, squinted in pain. In his hand, he clutched a letter addressed to a local cavalry captain. This boy's name would become synonymous with one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, Kaspar Hauser. The story he eventually managed to tell was haunting, a tale torn from the pages of a Gothic nightmare. He claimed to have spent nearly his entire life, almost 16 years, imprisoned in complete darkness. He described a solitary dungeon cell, no bigger than a bed, where he never saw the sun or another human face. Each morning, a faceless captor would leave him bread and water while he slept. There was no human touch, no spoken words, just silence, stone, and the crippling loneliness of absolute isolation. His sudden appearance raised immediate questions. Who was this boy? Where did he come from? Why was he released now, after so many years in captivity? The people of Nuremberg were both fascinated and horrified. They took him in, and under the care of a local teacher named Georg Daumer, a strange and wonderful transformation began. Initially, Kaspar was like an infant in a teenager's body. He couldn't speak properly, struggled to walk, and treated everyday objects with a mixture of fear and wonder. He was fascinated by fire, mesmerized by mirrors, and terrified by the sound of a ticking clock. But as the days turned into weeks, an extraordinary intelligence began to surface. It was as if his mind, locked away alongside his body, was finally being set free. He learned to read, write, and speak with astonishing speed. He displayed a natural talent for music and drawing, creating intricate sketches that seemed to flow from a deep, untapped well of creativity. But even as he learned about the world, the darkness of his past clung to him like a shadow. He was plagued by nightmares and hypersensitive to sounds and smells. His story, a blend of tragedy and wonder, captured the imagination of all of Europe. He became a celebrity, visited by nobles, scholars, and curiosity seekers from across the continent. Everyone had a theory about his true identity. The most popular and sensational theory was that Kaspar was a lost prince. Whispers and rumors began to circulate that he was the hereditary prince of Baden, son of the Grand Duke Karl and his wife, Stephanie de Beauharnais, a relative of Napoleon. According to this theory, the infant prince had been swapped at birth with a dying baby, so that a rival branch of the family could inherit the throne. Kaspar, the true heir, was then spirited away and hidden from the world. The legend was fueled by stories of a white lady, a ghostly apparition said to haunt the Baden castle, who was rumored to have been involved in the kidnapping. Was Kaspar Hauser a living, breathing fairy tale, a prince stolen from his cradle? This theory gained so much traction that it put Kaspar in grave danger. If he was indeed the rightful heir to a throne, powerful people would want him silenced forever. The threat became terrifyingly real one evening in 1829. As Kaspar descended a cellar staircase, a hooded figure lunged from the shadows and attacked him with a sharp blade, leaving a gash across his forehead. As the attacker fled, he hissed a chilling warning. "You still have to die before you leave the city of Nuremberg." Kaspar survived. The scar on his forehead, a permanent reminder of the danger that surrounded him. The attack seemed to confirm the conspiracy theories. Someone was trying to kill him, to prevent him from reclaiming his birthright. His fame and the mystery only grew. But with fame came skepticism. Some began to question the authenticity of his story. Was it possible for someone to survive such an upbringing? His rapid learning seemed almost too miraculous. Doubters suggested that Kaspar was not a victim, but a brilliant impostor. They painted him as a cunning fraud, a mastermind who had invented his entire backstory to gain fame and fortune. They pointed to inconsistencies in his accounts and suggested that the attack was self-inflicted, a desperate act to regain public sympathy when his popularity started to wane. Was he a prince in peril, or a pathological liar? The city of Nuremberg was divided. To protect him, Kaspar was moved to the small town of Ansbach, under the guardianship of a new benefactor, Lord Stanhope, an eccentric British nobleman. Stanhope was initially obsessed with proving Kaspar's royal lineage, but soon grew frustrated with the boy's evasiveness and inconsistencies. His patronage turned to suspicion, and he began to publicly voice his belief that Kaspar was a fraud. Abandoned by his most powerful supporter, Kaspar became increasingly isolated and depressed. The weight of his mystery was becoming a crushing burden. Then came the final, tragic chapter. On the afternoon of December 14, 1833, Kaspar stumbled back to his home in Ansbach, clutching his side. He was bleeding profusely from a deep stab wound to his chest. He gasped out a story about being lured to the palace garden by a stranger who promised to reveal the secret of his origins. According to Kaspar, the man handed him a small silk purse and then, without a word, plunged a dagger into his side and vanished. Inside the purse, investigators found a cryptic note written in Spiegelschrift or mirror writing. It was a bizarre, almost nonsensical message, hinting at his origins from the Bavarian border, but providing no real answers. It was signed only with the mysterious initials M.L.G. 3 days later, Kaspar Hauser died from his wound. He was just 21 years old. His death only deepened the enigma. Was he murdered by the same conspirators who had imprisoned him as a child, finally silencing the threat he posed? Or was his death the final, desperate act of an elaborate deception, a suicide staged to look like a murder? Committed by a young man who could no longer bear the weight of his own lies? The investigation into his death yielded nothing but more questions. The strange, mirror-written note found in the purse was deemed suspicious by many. Some believed Kaspar wrote it himself. The location of the attack, a public garden in broad daylight, seemed an unlikely spot for a clandestine assassination. No witnesses came forward. The murder weapon was never found. For nearly 200 years, the mystery of Kaspar Hauser has endured, a historical riddle with no solution. He became a symbol of innocence lost, a blank slate upon which society projected its greatest fears and romantic fantasies. In the modern era, science attempted to provide a definitive answer. Several DNA tests have been conducted, comparing genetic material believed to be from Kaspar with samples from living descendants of the Baden royal family. In 2002, one analysis suggested a link, reigniting the lost prince theory. However, a more comprehensive study in 2024 using advanced techniques concluded that Kaspar Hauser was not related to the Baden family, seemingly disproving the royal conspiracy once and for all. But if he wasn't the prince, who was he? The DNA results debunked the most famous theory, but brought us no closer to his true identity. They simply returned him to what he was on that day in Nuremberg, a complete unknown. His story remains a labyrinth of contradictions. Was he a tortured victim of a cruel conspiracy, or a masterful con artist who fooled all of Europe? Was his death a tragic murder, or a calculated suicide? Today, an epitaph on his tombstone in Ansbach reads, "Here lies Kaspar Hauser, enigma of his time. His birth was unknown, his death mysterious." Those words are as true today as they were in 1833. The boy who appeared from nowhere left behind a legacy of questions that continue to haunt us. The truth of his life and the identity of his killer, if one existed, remain buried in history's darkest corners, a perfect, unsolved mystery. Thank you for watching. If you find these historical mysteries as fascinating as we do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that time forgot.